There was no reason why the Red Sox couldn't have won their latest series. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. Over the last couple of days, the Red Sox played some sloppy baseball that led to dropping 2 out of 3 games from the Seattle Mariners. That puts them officially at 57-51 on the season. It also puts them 2.5 games back in third place in the division, and more importantly, that now puts them 2.5 games back of a wild card spot. So the good news, despite going just 2-4 on their West Coast road trip, the Red Sox only dropped one game in the wild card standings. The bad news here is that there never should have been 2 series losses in a row, and this Seattle Mariners series was a very, very winnable one for the Boston Red Sox had they played cleaner baseball. So what we are going to do in today's video is we're going to go over the latest Red Sox series. We're going to talk about some of the reasons why the Red Sox lost this series, how you can fix it, and what this series means in the grand scheme of the season. But before we get into that, do me a favor, just a heads up, we are going to be live tonight on this channel right around 7 p.m. Eastern time. There is no game tonight, so what we are going to do instead is we're going to break down some of the moves coming for the Boston Red Sox when Story and some of these pitchers get back. We're going to be talking about some of the effects of the trades they're going to have on the Red Sox. We're going to be going over essentially a Red Sox hot stove. Really anything you guys want to talk about Red Sox related, we are going to be talking about tonight. Again, that is at 7 p.m. Eastern time on this channel. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so normally what we do in these series recaps is we break down the Red Sox series based on offense, pitching, and then defense if we need to. But because this series was such a tale of 2 cities, I think it's best to break this series down game by game, starting with game 1, which saw Nick Pivetta make his first major league start since he was moved to the bullpen after, coincidentally, the Mariners series back at Fenway Park, and he was actually really good. He ended up going 7 1/3 innings, allowing just 3 earned runs on 5 hits and striking out 10. I think at this point, he has started to really fight his way back into this rotation. One thing that I absolutely love that Nick Pivetta did in this series was he maintained his bullpen schedule, right? He didn't try to go back to being a true starter. He came out of the bullpen. He still did his bullpen warm-ups before the game, and it actually worked out really well. And I really love that approach from Nick Pivetta because it's felt like a lot of his problems this year, especially as a starting pitcher, have come from a mentality type side of things, right? Once he got into the bullpen, it felt like his mentality shifted, and that's when he really started to get good. The fact that he's trying to maintain that while also still being a starting pitcher, to me, is a really great sign. So overall, a really successful start from Nick Pivetta. Unfortunately, though, despite a really great start from Nick Pivetta, the offense didn't do a whole lot in this series. You got 1 run because Jarren Duran is one of the fastest players in baseball, right? He scored on a double error by the Seattle Mariners, and you got an RBI infield single from Justin Turner. So you did get a couple of runs across the board in this game, but it simply was not enough, and that ended up, in my opinion, being the problem for the Red Sox in this series. But in this game in particular, they were just 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position, and they left 10 men on base. They simply could not get the timely hit and get the job done and give this Red Sox team a win and a series win as well. Now, for the bullpen in this game in particular, it didn't really go very well. Now, when I say bullpen, I really just mean Joe Jakes was the only person out of the bullpen. He only ended up pitching 2/3 of an inning. He allowed 3 earned runs, and in my opinion, Joe Jakes, as we get further and closer with these guys who are on the IL coming back, his time on the Boston Red Sox feels a bit limited, at least on the major league roster, right? Joe Jakes has really struggled this season. His statistics are up to a 6.23 ERA on the season with a 4.14 FIP and a 1.615 WHIP. I'd be pretty shocked by August 16th if Joe Jakes is still on this roster. So first game started off a bit frustrating, right? You finally get a good start from Nick Pivetta, and he simply can't capitalize on it. Game 2, though, was the only positive game in this series. Bello got the ball, and he had a little bit of another rocky outing. It feels like he's had a couple in a row now, but in this game in particular, he went 6 innings, allowing 4 earned on 8 hits and striking out 7. One thing to really keep an eye on is how many home runs Brayan Bello is giving up. He has allowed 15 home runs this season, which is just 1 less home run than Corey Kluber for the lead of home runs given up on the Boston Red Sox. And I think what's going on with Bello right now is that the league is adjusting to Brayan Bello, right? We've seen it with Massa, we've seen it with Tristan, we've seen it with Duran, where these rookies come in and they're really, really hot and then the league adjusts to them. So the big thing, in my opinion, to keep an eye on going forward with Brayan Bello is how does he make adjustments, right? How does he adjust to the league figuring him out? And I think he can do it. I think he will be successful at it. The question is, how is he going to do it? So that's something to keep an eye on going forward. As for the offense in this series, this was really the one game where they truly showed up in. Christian Arroyo had a big ground rule double that led to a couple RBIs for the Boston Red Sox. And this was a really great sign from Christian Arroyo, who's really been struggling since coming off the IL. Since coming off the IL, he has hit just .232 with a 624 OPS and 28 Ks in 39 games. So it's nice to see him produce for this team. The question is, how much longer is he going to be in a starting second base role? Now, on top of Christian Arroyo, you also got Reese McGuire making his triumphant return back to the Boston Red Sox. In his first game, he actually had his first home run of the season, which was really nice to see. And to be honest with you, I didn't think I was going to say this, but I missed Reese McGuire, not because Connor Wong's doing a bad job. In fact, I still think Connor Wong is the starting catcher for the Red Sox going forward, but because of what we were seeing from Jorge Alfaro while Reese McGuire was on the IL, he was just absolutely rough both at the plate and behind it. So it's nice to get someone who's at the bare minimum competent behind the plate. On top of that too, Alex Verdugo had a home run in this series, his first home run in a really long time. Verdugo had been really struggling lately, so it's nice to see him pick himself back up, and he kind of looked like old Doogie at the beginning of the year in this series, which for the Red Sox is a really, really great sign as they push forward to end this season. And I think a lot of what happened with Alex Verdugo was stress from the trade deadline, right? You could tell he was off a little bit going into the deadline, and the second the deadline passes, he gets back to who he is. And I think it was just a mental restart for Alex Verdugo, knowing that he's going to be with the Red Sox for at least the rest of the year. So in my opinion, all good signs from the offense in this game. As for the bullpen in this one, this was the only game I can confidently say the bullpen was really great in, right? Chris Martin, then Winkowski, then Kenley, and all of them did really, really well in the roles that they needed to be in. And honestly, again, it was the only game where everything was sort of firing on all cylinders. Bello struggled, yes, but he still kept you in this game. The offense actually did their job in this game, and the bullpen actually did their job in this game, which we can't say for any other game in this series. Now, game 3 felt like the wheels came off a little bit. It started out really well because you had Cutter Crawford starting this game, and he had a really, really great start. He ended up going 5 innings, allowing 0 earned runs on 4 hits while striking out 5, and I think he honestly may beat out one of either Houck or Whitlock when they come back from the IL. He's really, really settling in to a starter role in this Red Sox rotation, and he's become a guy the Red Sox can rely on to give you a quality start in the midst of all these injuries. And to be honest with you, he feels like a guy whose ceiling may be higher than either one of Whitlock or Houck once they get back into this rotation. So in my opinion, he may be here to stay in this rotation. He's been really, really clutch for the Boston Red Sox. Now, I did see a lot of people complaining about the fact that he only went 5 innings when he probably could have gone 6. My issue with that is his velo dropped a lot in that 5th inning. Yes, he was still getting outs, but that's a really sketchy game to play with a starter, so I understand them pulling him after 5 innings. Now, in terms of the offense, it started off really, really well. Jarren Duran had a really nice home run to begin the game, a 2-run shot, and it's really nice to see Duran with a power stroke every once in a while. I feel like we've gotten used to Jarren Duran kind of slapping singles and then turning them into doubles, and you sort of forget that he also has that power stroke as well. So it's nice to see him put one out of the yard in this series. And then after that, the offense essentially went quiet. You had opportunities. You ended up going 2 for 5 with runners in scoring position, so not terrible, but could have been much better. And your only other opportunity that you did capitalize on in this game was Masataka Yoshida with an infield single. So overall, again, it started off really well for the Red Sox offensively, and then it just sort of tapered out and went absolutely silent. As for the bullpen in this one, this is where things kind of fell off the rails, right? Once Cutter Crawford left the game, you bring in John Schreiber, which is fine, right? He did okay in 1 inning, but then you try to push him to 2 innings and he falls apart a little bit. Not entirely Schreiber's fault. I don't think he should have been out there for a 2nd inning, but either way, then you go to Richard Bleier, and Richard Bleier had a rough outing as well. Now, part of that is because of the fact that while Richard Bleier was on the mound, you had Rafael Devers and Yu Chang running into each other like 2 little leaguers between shortstop and third base, and on top of that too, you end up giving up a run based on essentially a little league play where the guy steals second, you throw to second, and then the guy at third steals home, right? That's a real little league type play, and the Red Sox allowed that to happen happened in the 7th inning where everything sort of fell apart, and this is where you started to see that really sloppy baseball. And on top of that too, I saw a lot of people talking about the game management in this one, Alex Cora's management of the bullpen, and while there were some questionable calls, I think ultimately the reason the Red Sox lost this game was not because the Red Sox put in Schreiber and then Richard Blyer. It was more so because of the fact that the Red Sox, one, went dead silent on offense and could not capitalize on opportunities, and two, played really sloppy defense that led to a really big inning for the Seattle Mariners. I don't care if you have your best player on the mound. If you've got your third baseman and shortstop running into each other, you're probably not going to have a good inning regardless of who's pitching for the Boston Red Sox. So overall, when you're talking about sloppy Red Sox play, there was a lot of it in this series. Now, we've talked about this before in this channel because honestly, sloppy baseball has been happening all year long for the Boston Red Sox, and it's led to some really embarrassing plays. The reason they've been able to do so well is because despite sloppy baseball, you've been able to put runs on the board, right? That, again, the Red Sox live or die by their offense, and that includes battling over sloppy on-field plays. Now, if they don't score runs, you're going to see exactly what we saw in this series, right? They're going to let up runs, and they're not going to be able to get them back, and that's the big problem in my opinion. So the Red Sox going forward need to do one of two things. They either need to fix their sloppy defense, which should help a little bit when Trevor Story gets back, or they're going to need to start scoring more runs, which in my opinion is the true solution to this problem, because it's not just shortstop that's the issue, right? Rafi's been sloppy over at third base. Tristan Casas has had issues at first base. Justin Turner at second base, not really his fault, but regardless, you do have him at second base, right? Then you got outfielders overthrowing cutoff men, throwing to the wrong base and stuff like that. So in my opinion, the true solution to the sloppy baseball problem is out-hit those problems, right? Score enough runs where you can afford to play a little bit of sloppy baseball and still win ball games. And that just did not happen in this series. The good news is, like I said, overall, despite having a rough West Coast road trip where they went 2-4, you didn't lose a ton of ground coming into one of the most important series of the season so far, right? You're still only 2.5 games back of a wild card spot, and you're about to play the Toronto Blue Jays, who are directly ahead of you, making this series, the one coming up, one of the most important series of the 2023 season. And what the Red Sox need to do is get back to scoring runs when they have runners on base, moving station to station baseball, and having good at-bats, because in this series, like I said, they couldn't get runs across the plate, but they still had good approaches to at-bats. I'm hoping that that carries over into this next series, and they get a bit more lucky with the hits that they do have. So overall, was this series sloppy? Absolutely. Was this series a bit of an embarrassment for the Red Sox in this third game? 100%. Did this sink or change the Red Sox season all that much? Definitely not, and they're still very much in play here in the AL wildcard standings going into, again, the most important series of the year. But before we get to that series, let me know what your thoughts on this series were. Let me know what you thought of the Red Sox playing the Seattle Mariners, their offense, their pitching, their defense. Let me know all your thoughts on the latest Red Sox series in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure to hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Also, don't forget, we are going to be live on this channel tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time to go over everything Red Sox related. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.